a surprised look on our face, don't we? We're like, oh, live.
Oh,
Hi,
we all are just so surprised something just happened.
How did this happen?
we're back. Yeah, it's us. The Salty Sisters, we're back. And we have a great guest with us today. But before we get there, Yvonne, why don't you tell everybody who, and of course, y'all should know who Yvonne is, but if you don't, she's going to introduce herself.
Hello, hello. I am Yvonne Marchese. I am an age agitator, and I do that as the host of the Late Bloomer Living podcast and the Age Agitators Club for women, where we are having a whole lot of fun, making waves as we age, rethinking what it even means to age. That's what we're doing. Let's live playfully at any age. That's what I'm going for. Miss Cat Corchado, would you like to introduce yourself?
I would. I am the freaking fabulous Cat Corchado, by the way. And if you don't know me, you should. But if you don't, I am a proud military veteran, and I served 20 years in the military, which also prompted me to start my podcast, Sisters in Service. And I'm also the founder of Small Space Pilates, where women in midlife can get their fitness fabulosity back. If you think you've lost it, I'll help you find it. How about that?
And she will too. And she will.
Oh, yeah.
And let's introduce our fabulous guest today, the incomparable Jacqueline, also known as Jack Perez, the founder of Cool Life, which is a platform it's a multimedia platform, I guess I'm going to call it. Would you call it that, Jack?
Well,
no, maybe not multimedia.
Multimedia in the sense that it is the written word, but there's also video available.
Yes.
And audio available. So I guess by definition, that is multimedia.
Absolutely. And the whole purpose of her platform is to normalize aging for midlife women, which I have to say, there's a whole lot of power in that mission, Miss Jack. So
there is, and all of us are on it in different ways, but we're all on the same quest, which is so wonderful to see, because that's how we're going to get there, right? Together. No individual is going to make this happen, by the way. No one person.
Right.
Shift this
you shouldn't be by yourself aging. You know what I mean? Like, you should have a group. You should have like women that you can just, pull into and say, I'm having this problem. Like, yeah, they've either been there, done that, or they're going through it, and you get a lot more support. So,
yeah, I want to talk about aging and all that, and normalizing aging. I mean, how do you normalize aging? I think what we need to do is normalize our ideas about aging in a more positive direction, because it seems to me that old has become a 4-letter word, and it shouldn't be. And what we have here is a problem where we have this ageism that is all around us in the culture, telling us that getting old is bad. And that becomes internalized ageism, which may not be a big deal for you when you're in your 20s or your 30s. But as you get older and you start to identify as old, it becomes self-referential. And then those ageist ideas will start to hold you back in your life. They're going to affect your mental health. It's going to affect your physical health. And so I'm here to shout it from the rooftops that you got to check yourself before you wreck yourself when you're talking about age.
You have to reframe how we look at it. A lot of times, and I see this all the time, is that in midlife, we go to other people and say, I really want to do this. What do you think? And if they shoot it down, you don't do it. And in midlife, just go do the thing. Just do it. You don't have to tell anybody you're doing it. Go do it. And then when you say, hey, I want to do this, and people shoot you down, you're like, well, I'm already doing this, and it's already successful. You know what I mean? So just go do it.
And to address a little bit further your point, Yvonne, about ageism and our internal ageism that we all have, whether we know it or we don't, there's a good reason for this, right? I mean, there's a good reason for this. First of all, in the early 1900s, not many of us made it past 51. As a white woman, not very many people made it past 51. So Yes, of course, there were women out there rocking the 60, 70, 80, 90, over 100. I'm sure there
Mhm.
were, but we didn't have this collective force that we have now. And
Mhm.
so I don't know about you, but I didn't grow up with any modeling of
No.
what it could be like to not have ageism, what it could
Mhm.
feel like to not feel limited because of a number.
Mhm.
We're kind of the first generation entering that space and saying, hey, I don't want to do what my mother did. I don't want to do what my grandmother did. I don't want to go backwards. I want to go forward. And
Mhm.
we have better healthcare. We have better self-care. We have better educated women. So we as women are well better positioned now
Mhm.
than we ever have been to keep
Yeah.
living large and playfully and doing the thing, no matter what the number.
Mhm.
And what's exciting though is that we're the ones that are modeling that for our baby sisters,
Mhm.
right? Our millennials, our
Mhm.
Gen Zers. Ladies, there's a good likelihood that by the time they get to this age, we're
Mhm.
going to be having completely different conversations.
Mhm.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I
me
really
too.
hope
Keeping
so,
my fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what we're
Mhm.
working towards,
That's
right?
what
Yeah.
all of us are busting our humps to
Yeah.
do, right? We're all out
Absolutely.
there day in and
Mhm.
day out, not making a ton of
Mhm.
money doing it. It's not like it's the most
Mhm.
profitable, lane you
Mhm.
can get into because once again, it's women. So yeah, I mean, I think that what we're doing is a public service as well as we have to do it, right?
We're
I know only
trailblazers.
two of you know well enough that you have to do what you're doing. You don't have a choice.
I'm just gonna pat myself on the
Yeah.
back right now. Yes,
Well,
absolutely. It's,
yeah.
there's a mission here, and you're
Mhm.
right. It's not like it's bringing in tons of money. It is
Mhm.
something that I feel to my core because I was thinking about it. I turned 57, not 57. Look at myself. I'm aging myself a year. I turned 56 yesterday.
Happy
And
birthday.
thank you very
Mhm.
much. And I was thinking about um, what did I even expect it to be like to be 56? You know? Whatever it was, I can tell you it
Mhm.
isn't what I expected. And especially if I go back to when I was in my 40s and I was looking at a decade ahead of me thinking, "Oh, holy criminy, here it comes."
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I had the idea that it was all going to be downhill because I was already having things happen with my body that were new and different and not welcome. And I I was dreading getting older until I started to take better care of myself,
Mhm.
which is how I want to talk about what we want to really talk
Mhm.
about today, which is you have the right to feel fantastic at any age. And Jack has co written a book with another cool life thought leader and Lisa King, and she's a pharmacist. And the book is called Your Midlife Health Refresh from Bottom to Top. And the subtitle is Feel Fantastic at Any Age. Jack, I want to talk to you about what was the idea behind doing the book? What was the impulse? And what got you through to the finish line to make it happen?
Those are all great questions. So the reason we did the book is that Lisa, who's been a pharmacist for over 30 years and is a huge influencer in women's health, she's so wise and full of tips, and she's been on the Cool Life Thought Leader roster for years. And I'm like, you know what, Lisa? There's so much in that head of yours. What if we dig it out and put something together that's comprehensive but not overwhelming? So the language, it's very easy to understand, it's very easy to follow, and it's very targeted. Lisa and I address very specific things that crop up in midlife and beyond. And that's
Mhm.
everything from hormonal imbalances to bladder leakage. I mean, ladies, a lot of us, anyone, a lot of people who have had babies the natural way,
Mhm.
they don't necessarily have the greatest bladder control, but there's things you could do. There are ways to
Mhm.
navigate those waters. It's not just all pharmaceuticals. It's not just, and it's not forget, and lose hope. And also, I love the chapter that she talks about the 5 things that she wished that she had known prior to menopause. That chapter alone, I think, is priceless because I wish I had had that chapter 10 years
Mhm.
ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what was happening in my 40s, and I didn't realize it because I didn't have the information at the time, was perimenopause was what was happening to me. And because I still had regular menstrual periods, I had no clue that some of the things that were happening were perimenopausal symptoms. Now that I've been doing this podcast, the Late Bloomer Living podcast for 4 years, now that we've talked to Dr. Lakeisha, who has been a great source of information for me around balancing hormones. You know, it's like a whole thing where I look back and go, oh, yeah, that check. What are there, 80 something plus symptoms that go
It's
with
ridiculous.
perimenopause?
Yeah, something like that.
It can be overwhelming. And you're so right, because I also had that problem in my early 40s. I had all these crazy symptoms and I kept attributing them to other things. I'm training too hard in Taekwondo. There's too much stress because I have a small child and I'm a single mom. All of these, and not one single medical doctor said to me, you might want to check your hormones because
They don't know.
they don't know. But that's
Mhm.
changing.
Right. Thank
That
goodness.
is changing. You know why? Because anyone who's a Gen Zer now and wants to go to medical school, they're going to know.
And as well, they
If we have
should.
anything to
It's
say about
know?
it.
now.
Mhm.
Because they're going to know. But you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, the people that we went to who
Mhm.
potentially were older, although now my doctors are like, I mean, when my doctor walks in, I'm like, do your parents know you're playing doctor?
I know, right? I do that too. I'm like, how old are you?
Do your parents know you're putting a stethoscope on me? Are you approved? That thing doesn't seem plastic. That seems real,
Well, I think one of the thing I want to go back to what Yvonne had said is that when she said she turned 56, she expected it to be different, and it's really not. And I think the one thing that I have, very much been very aware of is each year I get older, I said, how can I be better at this age than I was at my last age? And it might be just a tweak here and a tweak there, nothing huge, but just enough to keep me healthy, out of the hospital, out of whatever, not taking pharmaceuticals, and not that they're bad. I just don't ever want to take them for myself. But I think it's shifting the mindset, because we still hear, oh, well, you're old, so you don't know. But if we start looking at, I wish we would look at aging in the United States the way other countries look at their people aging, how they revere them, how they look up to them, how do they go to them for advice. And we're the opposite here. And that really sucks, I think.
That I'm going to take it back to Becca Levy and Breaking the Age Code. That is the source of all her work. If anybody has not read that book, read it. It's a great read. It took me forever to actually read it, and once I read it, I was like, wow, this is so well written and easy to read. It's
Why
amazing.
did I wait so long?
Why did I wait so long? And as I was reading it, and she has done all these scientific studies on aging, and that's what she got curious about. What is the difference between, the super aging countries and here in the US? And it is that idea of aging. They revere it. They hold their elders as something to, people to be upheld and looked to, and um revered. And it because they do that, it changes that self-referential experience when they
Mhm.
become older and they become the elders.
Well, they look forward to it.
Yeah.
Because it's a coveted spot.
It's
Yes.
this powerful
It's a coveted
mind.
spot because not
Yeah.
everyone is guaranteed to grow older. So
Mm-mm.
you have to be able to get there, right? And it's a
Mhm.
coveted spot. So
Mhm.
I want to share something. It's embarrassing, and but I think it's important to share, because anyone who hears this, if I can save one person from what I went through. So I just turned 60, July 9th, a couple weeks ago.
Happy
And
birthday.
thank you. And I now realize I had been battling low-level depression for like 18 months, for the past 18 months. And I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't shake it. And I've had some dark thoughts that I'm not going to share, but everyone can extrapolate what
Mhm.
how dark thoughts can get.
Mhm.
And started thinking about, well, maybe I need help. Maybe I need some Wellbutrin therapy. Maybe I need something to get over this hump. July 9th rolls around, and all of a sudden, the darkness parts. July 10th rolls around, and I'm like back to my giddy, happy self. I do not know why I had so much anxiety and stress and concern
Mhm.
about turning 60. I don't know what I thought was going to happen that day.
Mhm.
I do not know. And now
So do you think the last 18 months of that was you fearing the turning of the clock of
I,
the official
yes,
designation as
our
60?
Mhm.
country is not the most stable
Mhm.
situation right now, too. And
Mhm.
Right?
that's not helping either. And
Mhm.
honestly, since Roe v. Wade was overturned, things haven't been great for me.
Mhm.
I have not felt like a full citizen of my country. And as a child of immigrants, refugees, being a real citizen of this country is important to me.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Um, but no, honey, I think it's because I made up stuff about turning 60.
Mhm. And
And
it's a big landmark. It's a landmark,
why
you
did I waste
know?
so much time? So anyone who's listening to this, leading up to 40 or 50
Mhm.
or 60 or 70 or
Mhm.
5 number, because sometimes people get freaked out about the 5
Mhm.
number.
I did.
Please learn from my mistake. You're not going to wake up that day and look any
Mhm.
different. You're not going to wake up that
Yeah.
day and feel any more feeble. As a matter of fact, the day that I turned 60, I had a PR, a personal record on my rower.
Mhm. Mhm. But I,
So,
I also, Jack, I think that we tend to think of getting older, like your 60 might be different from somebody else's 60,
right, but I'm
So
talking
when
about
we
the
talk about being
internalized
older,
aging,
it's
ageism.
different. Yeah, it is. And
Yeah.
and those landmark birthdays are, even I sit back and go, holy crap, 67. Well, what am I? What? And I start thinking 3 years away from this, 3 years away from 70, 10 years away from this. And I have to stop doing that.
Right.
I have to just start living my life. And like we had talked about yesterday, is like we see someone doing something and our body goes, yeah. And our brains go, no, our brain goes, yeah. And our body goes,
No, thank you. Yeah, I look, I mean, when I look at like TikTok videos of people weightlifting, because I'm a weightlifter, and so I'm interested, and I look, or martial artists, and I just
Mhm.
saw this one young woman doing like the spinning hook kick and hitting someone in the head, and I'm like, oh my god, that's so much fun. And yeah, I don't do that anymore. Yeah, I don't do that anymore. I can do it in here,
Mhm.
but
Well, who's to say though that you couldn't get yourself to the point where you could do it, Jack? Do you know Mimi Eisen of Hey Middle Age
I
on
don't.
Instagram? Oh my goodness, you have got to go look her up
I
because
will.
you are going to be inspired. I guarantee. I'll say right now, I fill my Instagram feed with people who inspire me in that way, shape, or in that way.
Mhm.
Train with Joan. She was 70 years old when she was having massive health issues, and her daughter is a weightlifter and got a hold of her and was like, Mom, let's get this under control. And she is in her 80s now. And I mean, she is like strong and fit and completely transformed. Mimi started boxing in her 50s. And she just the other day she posted a reel of where she was when she started boxing, kind of, and you can kind of see she's like
Yeah.
moving slow and she's
Moving,
working into it.
like pushing a refrigerator because you don't really know what you're doing.
Right, right. And then
Like
in the
circles,
very
you're not
next
pushing a
part of the video,
refrigerator.
yeah. In the very next part of the video, though, she's like, you know what I mean? I was like, wow, go Mimi. Not only that, but she is my inspiration for learning to shuffle dance. I am a wee baby beginner, and I have been fighting a thing my whole life where I tell myself I'm not a dancer. I don't do choreographed type dance steps. It's PTSD from a lot of auditions and dance classes as an actor when I was younger. And I have been telling myself,
I can relate because as
right?
a singer, actor, dancer,
Right.
I can fake it.
I could not. I've been telling myself for a long time, yeah, Lucille Ball, I can do the Elaine real easy.
Really?
Let's just say that is my vibe when I'm dancing. But I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to tell myself I'm not a dancer anymore. I'm working on that.
Good.
And so I want to learn how to shuffle dance because it looks like fun. So why am I telling myself I can't do that? And I'm going slow. I'm like, I'm barely learning the running, man. And I'm breaking it down but who's to say you couldn't do that flip kick, whatever thing that you were talking about, if you work up slowly to it again?
I'm just not interested in that anymore.
Oh, well, there's that.
I'm doing something else. So now I've just joined a real gym because I want to be able to start lifting heavy. I was telling Kat yesterday that I have a gym at home, but I can't lift heavy because I don't have a way to spot myself. And I can't drop weights because I'm over a garage. And if I drop weights, it's going straight through onto the cars. And then I'm going to be homeless because I will get I will get an eviction notice. So I signed up for Planet. It's not Hollywood.
Planet
Fitness.
Fitness. Yeah.
And I've gone a few times. And so now I'm just focused on, I want to get back to being a power lifter. And yeah. So that's my new
love it.
And
I love it.
It's going to take me a while. It is.
So Jack, I want to talk about your book a little bit. We say, midlife, but a lot of people don't know they're in midlife. So when you say this book is for midlife people, can you speak to those people who may not be sure they're in not midlife, or maybe some people are past midlife?
Well,
is this book for them? Who is this book for?
Right. So that is, oh my God, that is a fantastic question. So yes, this book is probably more helpful to someone in their late 30s, early 40s, because there's a lot of good information about what to pay attention to, especially the stuff that I wish I knew this before menopause. So there's a lot of rich information about supplements and behaviors and foods that would be very, very helpful to someone who's perimenopause. That is not to say that if you're like in midlife and beyond, like you and I are, Kat, like this one over here still might make it, but I can guarantee you I'm not seeing 120. I'm not seeing a buck 20. I'm just not seeing it. So, but there are things that maybe you don't know or you've missed or something that you've been doing and you're like, why isn't this working? Well, maybe because that's not quite what you should be doing. And what's nice is this is a primer. It's not a 400-page book. I don't know. It's under 30 pages, I think. And it's print. So and it's lots of pictures and it's very laid out so you can skim and get to the pieces that are important to you. Because if you don't have bladder leakage, don't read that chapter.
Right.
And
I think it's I love that you laid it out the way you did, Jack, as I was looking through it. And what I took from it was, yes, you're right. It doesn't go super deep on anything. But that's great because you can kind of go through and go, you know what? They said this. Let me go down a rabbit hole.
Right.
And do a little more looking into what they just said about these supplements.
Right.
Is that for me? And
that is our hope and wish, because I believe that power, the information is power. And if I had more information in my early 50s, my transition would have been a lot less painful. Cool Life wouldn't exist, by the way, because I wouldn't have felt the pain and I wouldn't have felt like I needed to come up with a solution for myself. So I don't wish it away because I wouldn't be where I am today without that discomfort. But we don't need another Cool Life, ladies. You don't need to suffer.
Can I just say also that even though it's for, for those people in their late 30s, early 40s, that's not to say that someone my age, if I had a daughter, say, that I looked at her and realized she's going through some of this stuff, that I couldn't read that and go, yep, that's her. Yep, that's her. Okay, let me see if I can help her through this. You know what I mean?
And that is another, yeah. I mean, that's another way that vehicle could be useful.
And I'll say, as somebody in her mid 50s, I think that this book is very useful for somebody my age. You're talking about a high protein diet in here. You're talking about reducing sugar because, when I started reducing the sugar in my diet, and that was just maybe in the past 2 years, I would say, it made a huge difference for the inflammation in my body and how many of my daily aches and pains. Reducing my sugar, reducing my sugar intake made a huge difference, I believe. Not only that, but you guys talk about intermittent fasting. And now I don't have a huge window, but I aim for 12 hours of
12 hours is good enough for a lot of people.
Yeah. And I figure too, I'm like, you know what? Some days I don't get to the 12 hours, but that's okay.
Yep.
What's happening is that I'm eating dinner earlier and then I stop. And I am not eating before bed, which means that my sleep is better. My digestion is better, all those things. So I think that this book is equally as good for somebody in their 50s, maybe even their 60s, because I don't know if a lot of women know that they need to be really upping their protein and lifting and lifting weights.
I think a lot of women don't realize that they are not getting enough protein every day. Every day. I would I would bet money that most women our age are protein deficient.
Yeah.
And definitely the weightlifting. I love the fact that that is definitely taking some weight in the social media world. And you're seeing a lot more of it. And in TikTok, you're seeing all these women that are our age and older, like rock solid. And I'm like, that is what we need, ladies. That is what we need. So we don't break.
But there's still that old adage out there that, I'm going to bulk up if I lift heavy, and I'm like, just pick up. I know, just pick up a weight. Jack, here's a question I have for you. What is your favorite chapter in the book and why?
Oh, for me, it's the one of the things that I wish I had known before menopause. And that is because, oh my God, what a gift that is to all of the women out there who haven't, and even the women who are in menopause or out of menopause. You might be surprised about some of the things that you just like, oh, so that's what that was about, or that's what this is about. Yeah. So I love that chapter. I'm also a fan of she talks about dealing with constipation while you travel.
That is real.
Am I embarrassed? We're talking about,
I'm just going to say that is real. That is a real challenge.
I don't know.
That's real. It happens to me every single time.
I think it happens to a lot of us when we travel. Like you get dehydrated, you get off your biorhythms, your food changes. So a lot, and so she talks a little bit about how to prepare for that and kind of mitigate when that happens. And so that is also a very useful chapter as far as I'm concerned.
Jack, is there any information in the book about gut health and your microbiome as you're aging?
There is gut information, not super deep. Once again, I think Yvonne really brought it to light that we bring things up in the hopes to get women curious if something is triggered for them. That they're saying, oh, wow, is that why I'm feeling this way? Or could that be what's going on for me?
Because that's been super huge for me. I've been going down a rabbit hole. So I love the fact that you do a little brief thing about it. And then I can go, okay, I need to know more about this. And then I can go down the rabbit hole, which I've been doing, by the way.
Yeah, I'll just direct everybody I'll just direct everybody to Kat's health symposium. I don't know if you got to catch any of it, Jack, but Kat just finished up in June a midlife health symposium for women. She had on a gut microbiome expert. She had on Debbie. Oh my goodness, to talk about bone.
Debbie Robinson. Yeah.
Thank you, Debbie Robinson, to talk about bone health. And I mean, I was watching it, and I couldn't just sit and watch you guys talk. I had to get up and start lifting weights and moving my body while I was watching you, because it was so inspiring to, I was like, okay, girl, get up off the couch and move.
But I think one of the things that I really wanted people to understand is, even though I've been in the fitness industry for a long time, I'm a lifelong learner. I want to learn from these people also. You know, I learned from Yvonne. I learned from you, Jack. I learned from all the people that I go, oh, wow, that's cool. Let me write that down. So I think that as long as I have this love of knowledge, I call myself an information junkie, that, you know, learning, especially about my own body, about things that maybe I didn't know, that maybe I want to go down that road and say, let me see what this is about. So I loved how your book gives you just enough, you know, like when you have a piece of cake and it's a small piece and you go, oh, that was good. Let me go get some more of that. Let me find out what's more about it.
Exactly.
The reason we chose that methodology, or that delivery method, is because this season of life for many of us can get very complicated and complex. And so to create a midlife health book, well, that would be called a medical book or an encyclopedia, right? And first of all, neither Lisa and I are medical doctors, right? I mean, she is a pharmacist of over 30 years, so she knows what she's talking about. And B, who wants an encyclopedia? Sometimes that can be so overwhelming that it doesn't help anyone. And so my intention was to give a little bit of a snack or an appetizer to get people's curiosity up, Kat, the way you're saying, for them to look further on their own behalf. And it's on sale this weekend.
I was just going to say, Jack, isn't there a little promotional deal going on at the moment?
There is. And so for the weekend, if you go to Cool Life and you click on the book and you put it in your cart, if you use Midlife Health 50 in the coupon area up at the top, so Midlife Health 50, and the 50 is because you get 50% off. So
nice.
Not that the darn book was very expensive at $9.99, but if you were like, oh shoot, I don't want to spend $10 on this, spend $5.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
So they need to go to coollife.com. They need to go to coollife.com to get that deal.
Yeah, it's on coollife.com.
Coollife.com. And is it on the homepage? They'll see the book there.
On the homepage on the right side, just hanging out there, Midlife Refresh. You can't miss it. It's on the homepage. Put it in your cart, put Midlife Health 50 in your coupon code, and you can download it for $5.
Gotcha. And this is going live. I just want to point out the timing on this. Today is Friday, July 26th. So this offer is going to be good today, tomorrow through the 28th. Is that right?
Until Monday, which is
Monday, the 29th.
29th.
So July 29th, 2024 for anybody watching. If you're watching on a replay, just so you know. Yeah, but you can still go get it. If you're watching in future time, you can still go get it.
It's only $9.99.
It's only $9.99. Right. And aren't you worth $9.99? I'm just going to say.
Right?
And so
if you get one tip, one behavior modification that fixes a symptom, like, I don't know, to me that doesn't seem hard to calculate from an ROI perspective.
Can I just point out the power of making one little change too? That for me, it was my morning routine. It was when I was 48 and I was getting close to 50, Jack. So we're going back to that conversation of, I'm like, oh, the big 50's coming, right?
Right.
And I didn't realize that this is what was happening to me, but in hindsight, that's what was going on. But I was in a low-level depression at that point in my life. I was not a happy girl. And I started going down the self-help route. And I was like, something's got to change. I know I have stinking thinking that needs to get fixed. What am I going to do about this? And
Are you sure you were not a kindergarten teacher in some iteration of life? Thinking, children. Just
that's probably no, my husband. That's a phrase I probably borrow from my husband.
That's so cute. It's adorable.
Oh my God. The negative thought loops that were in my head throughout my 40s, I cannot begin to tell you. And when I decided that I was going to try I love my challenges, my 30-day challenges. And I didn't know this about myself at the time either, but I do. I love 30-day challenges. So this was my first ever 30-day challenge that made a difference for me. And I made one little change. I stopped using my snooze button. I set my alarm clock across the room so I would have to get up, and I got up an hour earlier every day to meditate and move my body. And taking care of myself, that one habit change led to me starting a podcast, led to eventually Salty Sisters, led to my relationships with both of you, from one little change. And I had no idea where that was going.
I know. I love that. I love that about us, right? Because, so what does that mean? What does that really mean for everyone? That means that it doesn't matter how bad it is. It doesn't matter how bad it is right now. It doesn't matter how complicated things are. It doesn't matter how frustrated you are. It doesn't matter how one tiny little change. Stick to that little change. Doesn't have to be a big change.
Right. And don't put more weight on it.
Move your clock across the room.
Yeah. Don't put more weight on it.
You put up an hour earlier. I mean, it was definitely, but still, it wasn't like it was complicated, or you didn't need AI to figure out, the best next step for you.
And I didn't think it was going to lead to a podcast. I didn't think it was going to do any of these other things. So if you make a change, hold it lightly. Hold it lightly. Do it as an experiment. Just see where it takes you, because you don't know. But it's, if you put too much weight on those changes and too much importance and heaviness, then you've got expectations that suddenly you're putting on it. Just take it easy on yourself. Lighten it up.
I like to say I'm invested, but not attached.
Yeah. I think the other thing too is that sometimes we want to do big things, but we think about the big thing instead of thinking about the steps to the big thing. So Yvonne and I talk about doing our podcast and how we started, and it sounded like it was like, oh, push the button, and then there was a podcast. There were steps we had to take. So if you're thinking about starting a business, find out what kind of business would you like. Do little things moving towards that. I had to learn how to, I took a course on podcasting. I had to learn how to do it. So it wasn't just, podcast, and there it was, okay, I knew the steps I had to take to get there. So just because it seems daunting right now, take these little baby steps towards that and say, I want to keep going towards that, or like, yeah, no, okay, maybe not right now, or maybe just that, maybe no. So I think it's important for us to, because we get to a certain age and we're just like, oh, no, I don't want to. But if you take those baby steps towards that big thing, finding out all that information, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised at what you find.
And I think too that, what am I trying to say? Taking care of yourself, this self-care and looking at your life with a little bit of excitement and playfulness is going to lead you to places that you could never imagine. I mean, it is, I'm thrilled that I made the decision to stop hitting the snooze button. And it wasn't easy. I was not a morning person. I still am not a morning person.
Did that turn? I bet it didn't turn you into a morning person.
It didn't.
No.
It didn't.
Right,
no, but
biorhythms, honey. And and you know what? It's because you needed to keep watch at night to make sure the cave was safe.
Yes.
I mean, there are reasons we all have different biorhythms. It made sense.
Yeah. I was up I was up editing photos after my kids went to bed. It was a life stage too.
Yeah.
It was working a regular full-time job plus doing photography, edit, and so trying to fit in work when the kids were sleeping, right? And then when I started getting up earlier, I started realizing, if I'm going to keep getting up earlier, I need to rearrange other things in my life, and I need to start going to bed earlier. And so that was another self-care
all I was
moment.
hearing was a lot of sleep deprivation. Every time you're like, and then I would do this, I would do that. And where does the sleep come in?
Right. And that's important. I mean, for a while there, I was fooling myself. I'm like, I can get by in 5-6 hours. I'm fine. No
I'm
problem.
good. I don't need 2.5 hours.
Right.
So, Jack, what kind of advice would you give to someone who's watching this on replay and they're feeling kind of not like themselves? You know, they've kind of been in this funk.
Uh-oh, did we just lose Kat?
She ran away.
Oh, no. So what would your advice be, Jack, to somebody who is feeling, I'm continuing your question, Kat. I don't know what happened.
There you are there you are.
And I'm back. You like the trick? It's a magic trick.
I did.
I was like, that's our magic trip portion of
today.
I feel like I need a blanket to.
So, that's a good question. And I want to go back to what I shared about all of the depression and anxiety and stress leading up to my birthday, and then it happening and it all disappearing, and my realizing that I wasted a lot of time and energy. And so my advice would be, do yourself a favor and don't waste your time and energy on thoughts and behaviors that aren't serving you. And worrying about getting older is like worrying about boiling the ocean with a book of wet matches, because it's going to happen. If you are alive, it's going to happen. You can't get away from it unless you die. The only way to stay young is to die young. That is it. There is no other.
Go.
And so I spent so much energy, negative energy, and I hurt myself, right? Because when you spend a lot of time in negativity, your cortisol goes up, that fight flight response, and you don't want your body to be in that space, because that's not good hormonally, and that is not going to do you well from a health perspective. And, not to be ridiculous, but if you don't have your health, you
don't have anything.
And what's going on up here is affecting everything else.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
And so my advice would be, if you're feeling that way and you can't snap out of it, I couldn't make myself snap out of it either. Please go get a therapist. And I know that they're hard to find right now because COVID and the world. But there are even like betterhelp.com. There are even like that maybe isn't ideal, but maybe as a stopgap or just an initial, I need to talk to somebody. I need to not feel alone. And just to know that you're not alone, that this does happen. And it's okay. It's actually okay too to be sad or upset, but get yourself some help, because it's not worth it. It's just not worth spending that kind of time and energy in a negative space. It's not.
Yeah.
I think one of the small things. Oh, go ahead, Yvonne.
I was just going to say, on top of therapy, I think surround yourself with people who lift you up. Yeah. You know who you feel good with, you know who, when you see them, you're like, hey, oh my gosh. Or you finish talking to somebody and you think, oh, that was a shot in the arm.
Yeah. So I'm very grateful, because a halo effect of starting Cool Life, I did not know it at the time, is I have 65 women that I can call, and I include both of you, that if I needed you, if I needed to vent, if I needed advice, if I just needed a shoulder, I know I could reach out to you too. I know I could. And I hope that you know that you could vice versa with me. And so that part, I completely agree with you, Yvonne, because honestly, connection is more important than anything else for health perspective. I mean, human connection actually weighs more than BMI or smoking a pack of cigarettes a day.
Yeah, the Surgeon General, maybe he's the former Surgeon General now, but he was looking at loneliness
Yeah.
as
The
being
number
more of a
one.
health threat than heart disease.
Yeah.
And here's the thing is that as we get older, we can go down the road of loneliness because it can feel harder to put yourself out there to make new friends. It
Yes.
can feel harder to feel a sense of commonality with people. And so the more you can do to follow your instinctual interests, go take a class in something and surround yourself with people who have some sort of something in common with you, and just keep putting yourself out there as hard as it is. And I'm speaking as a former bootstrap, independent, do-it-yourself kind of girl who didn't need groups of people. I'm just kidding.
There you go.
wasn't a groupie either in my youth, but boy, oh boy, do I love being a groupie now.
Yeah.
I love my group of women. I love my girls.
100%.
I count on all of you, and I love that. I love that. I think that's one of the perks of being over 50 for me. I have more amazing women in my life now than I did 10 years ago.
100%. Me too. Well, I'm looking at the time, ladies. Oh, did you want to say something else? Sorry.
Well, I wanted to add a little bit to what you were saying about how it does get a little bit harder and loneliness becomes a bigger issue. Because if you had kids and those kids are gone and you're no longer socializing with the parents of the kids, or you're not going to school events, and then what happens if you left corporate America and you're an entrepreneur or you retired? Well, you no longer have your colleagues at work to socialize, and all that stuff. It happens slow and kind of benignly in the background, but you wake up one day and you're like, I don't have anyone to call or talk to or go to lunch with, or so yes, you have to be kind of proactive. Yeah,
absolutely. Jack, thank you so much for joining us today. I want to remind everybody that the book is on special this weekend. So if you go to coollife.com, you will find it there. And again, the title of the book, what is it, Jack? I can't get it in front of me right now.
Your Midlife Health Refresh from bottom to top.
There you go.
Feel fantastic at any age, and use the Midlife Health 50 coupon code.
Perfect. And Jack and I will be back on August 2nd. So come on and join us then. That's another Friday at noon Eastern time.
Pat and you will be back on August 7th.
Did I say Jack?
You did. And I'm like, oh, am I invited again?
What did I do?
Or is this how Pat finds out he's been ousted?
So classic. Because can I just tell you?
You're not on the
out.
That's hilarious. I do this all the time. If I've got my two kids, the wrong name comes out 99% of the time.
All the time. And you just eventually get to the name that you need to get to.
Well, Yvonne, Jack and I have been, they mistake us all the time because we look so much alike. I'm just going to say.
Cat Corchado, the freaking fabulous Cat Corchado and I
will
be back.
She'll be back on the 7th. I hope to be invited again someday. I hope that I was an acceptable guest. That I behaved myself.
I would hope not. Don't ever.
I know. Don't ever behave yourself. I don't think I'd like that, Jack. Don't behave.
I don't even know who that Jack would be.
Oh my goodness.
God. All right, guys. Until next time, we'll see you next August 8th, right? Or 7th? 2nd.
Are you going to be here? Are you going to be here?
I don't know.
Well, Yvonne, you got my number if you need backup.
All right, guys. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.